Hi, this is Janice and I'm back to show you how to construct the trousers that I make on the red two-piece wool set and on the jumper that we're actually making on today. Now for this particular construction, I'm going to be using McCall's pattern M6756. Now the pattern is originally for shorts. It's part of the Fashion Star series. It's a shorts that I've made a couple times last summer that fits me really well. So I use this pattern to make pants. Now there's plenty of trouser patterns that you can find out there, McCall, Simplicity, all of them. But I like the way that these fit me, and I can easily construct wide leg pants. So I use this as my go-to pattern on making these type of items. So what I'm going to do is I'll be constructing the pants with this particular pattern without the waistband, because as you know, we're going to be constructing the jumpsuit, so we won't need the waistband on this particular pattern. Now, if you're making the trousers without the jumpsuit top hand, then you'll just follow the normal instructions on the pattern along with the steps that I'll be teaching you now. So I have my pattern placed here on the fabric, and what I'm going to do is take some measurements. So from my belly button down to the floor, even to the floor for me on my tippy toes is 42 inches. I typically cut my pants at 47 inches because of two reasons. One, it's better to have more fabric on the bottom of your pants than to have too little. I want to be able to wear these pants with platform shoes, which I usually wear because I have a short complex. And, you know, I want them to be able to overlap over my shoes. And I also want to be able to create a pretty good size hem. So the first thing I'm going to do is the 42 inches from my belly button down to the floor, and then adding those 5 is 47 inches. So I'm going to measure the top of my pattern, and I'm going to come down 47 inches. And I'm going to make a mark, and I hope you can see this because I'm using a white marking mechanism here. And then also the measurements from my belly button down to my knee is 21 inches. So I'm going to measure that, 21 inches. And I'm going to make a mark, and I'm going to tell you why I'm going to make that mark here shortly. Now, the first thing I'm going to do after that is I'm going to make, as you can see, I have my fabric on the fold, and I have my pattern just inside that fold because I'm not going to use the fold at all. I also have my pattern about 1.5 inches from the top. It's going to give me a little bit of pattern to work with so you don't get that slouchy or that really tight feel in your crouch that you don't want. So I've done that a couple of times, and even though I'm losing weight, I don't know if it's ever going to go away. So I'm just going to duplicate this line from the edge of my pattern all the way down to the measurement of 47 inches, which is my length down to the floor, plus the 5 inches for my hem and for my platform shoes. I'm just going to go all the way down. This is where my original line made. So I'm going to come down here and just connect that. And then I'm going to come down to my knee line. Now the way I do that, as you can see, when you have these shorts, it has a little bit of a diagonal pull, and you're going to have to reciprocate a diagonal pull. Now I'm going to continue that down to my 21-inch line to my knees, because I'm going to make a bit of an indentation. That's what it's going to do, is give you a slim fit on your thighs and then have it flare out from there. So it's very form-fitting. So I'm going to follow the natural line from the actual pattern down to where I marked my knees is at, which is here. And then from there, I'm just going to continue a straight line down to the end of my 47 inches. So I'm going to continue that down. And I'm going to connect that line. So as you can see here, I have the pattern for a wide leg pant. Now what I'm also going to do is place my ruler or whatever you have available on top of the pattern, and I'm going to duplicate this, because then this way I can take my pattern off of the fabric and I can cut. I don't have to worry about having any pulling or my pattern paper moving. So I'm just going to draft the line for this all the way around. My pattern, and you might want to check and make sure that your pattern is flush at all times when you're doing this, because you don't want to get any mismeasurements. You don't want to have, you know, any creases, and then your garment looks all crazy when you take it off, or when you put it on rather. So I'm just duplicating these lines here, and I'm actually going to continue up. Because like I said, I want that 1.5 inches to give me some room for adjustments if I need to. I don't want a tight crotch. I'm going to trace the outline here from what I originally started all the way up. You have a bit of a curve here, so I'm just going to duplicate that. And you're working with, you know, something light that you can see. So, you know, if you're just drafting and going along, I use these pattern weights, which I got from an idea from another blogger that I use to keep my pattern still. If you don't have this, you can place anything. You can place a jar, a coffee top, whatever you want on there. And I'm just going to draw up to the end of my fabric. Now, before I remove this, what I'm going to do is duplicate my notches. Now, I've made this 100 times. I don't really need it. But I'm going to duplicate it for you so you can see exactly where you need to do your darts, which is right here. I do this with this. My scissors in front of me. It's going to let me know where that dart needs to be. I have another one here. You don't have to cut out those triangles. It's not really necessary. I have one here. It's going to show me where I need to cut or align my two pants together. So now that I've done that, I can remove this. Now, if you're constructing this, again, as a separate piece, it's very important that you understand that this actual curve here, and this is a technical term for it that I don't know, this is for your zipper. If you're not going to be, if you're going to be creating this jumpsuit and not the actual trousers, then all you need to do is straighten out this line. And I'm going to align it with my curve here. Take my pencil here and just bring that line up. And we'll cut off that part for the zipper because we're not putting the zipper in the front. For this garment, the zipper is going to be in the back. So that's that. And I have my entire pants leg for the front anyway. I believe this is the front. Yes, it is. I have this drafted out, and what I'm going to do is cut it out, and then I'm going to go on over to the other, to the back. Now, I could have placed the back here, but my fabric is not wide enough for it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this out, and then I'm going to start here where I have enough space to place my back piece and draft out from there. So I'm going to cut out this front piece here. And if you're wondering what type of fabric this is a very fine linen. It's rather expensive. I just cut off my inch, but hey, we'll keep it moving. Keep your inch when you're doing that. Don't cut it off. I know this is going to fit me, but when you're doing this, you might want to make sure that you keep that inch up there, because if you need to make adjustments, you need to have a little bit of sag. You're going to need that. So I do know this is going to fit me. So it's okay that I cut that inch off, but really don't do that when you're making this. Especially if you're a newbie. If you have a pattern that you know that fits you, then it's okay. I'm going to cut the bottom here. Now if you're wondering where I got this table, I got it from IKEA. I paid $10 for this tabletop from the As Is section. So I do use my rotary cutter on here. If I paid a lot of money for this, I'd probably use my scissors, because at some point, I'm going to have so many cuts in my table that it's kind of going to be useless, where I can send it down, or in my case, I'm thinking probably next year, I'm going to just cut this off. I mean, I'm just going to screw off the top, turn it over, and keep it moving. I mean, I paid $10 for it, so essentially I got my money's worth for it. So the last part I'm going to do is cut off the edge. I'm going to put my weights down because I don't want the pattern to move. I'm going to cut that edge off at the line that I created. This linen is rather thick, so it doesn't require a lining. So if you want to do this with the linen, I would suggest that you buy a linen that is very thick. Otherwise, you can do a lining. If you do lining, it's the same concept you use here. Cut out your front piece, get some lining, place the lining down, and use this actual piece to cut your lining. You don't have to be very specific about how you put the lining on. A lot of people like to do it and turn it around, but you don't have to do that because you can sew it on facing and it'll be okay. So I'm going to remove these. And I now have my front piece of my jumpsuit. So I'm going to fold this up, set this aside, and then we're going to start on the back piece. I'm back, and I went ahead and did the lines for my back piece, same exact as I did the front piece. I went ahead and drafted the top of my pattern so I can go ahead and remove it and begin cutting it out. Now there's no zipper piece to cut out on the back, so I went ahead and did that. Since I forgot my inch on the first part, cut out this piece here. It's nothing better than a rotary cutter, I swear. Put my weights down because I don't want my fabric to move too much here. I'm going to cut out my side piece all the way up to the top. Remove that. Get my bottom piece cut. And for the hard part, this side seam, like my, almost going right along the edge here. Got a little pin there. It's too close. And continue on up. You can back up, honey. And follow that on through. Now, the only thing that I haven't done since then is cut out my notches. So I'm going to put this back on. And I'm going to cut my notches. Got my scissors now. Now, when I'm doing this, I'm cutting my notches out, but it's kind of just showing the general area. But you want your notches from your top to match your bottom. Now, if you're not doing the top, then you make sure you cut these out. But otherwise, I'm just making it for a general form. Take these off. Take out my pins here. And I have my back piece cut. I'm going to fold this up, put this aside. I know my front from my back, so I don't really have to mark, but if you're a newbie, you want to mark the front from the back so you know what you're working with, especially when you get into the construction piece. I just cut some trim so I can keep some scraps of my fabric, and I throw the rest away because I'm going to have a little bit of OCD with the scraps. And then I'm going to start on cutting the bodice piece that we originally drafted. So I will be back.